Get down with D&D.
Yeah, you know me.
Get down with D&D.
Yeah, you know me.
Get down with D&D.
Yeah, you know me.
Who's down with D&D?
This whole party.
Down with D&D.
Yeah, you know me.
You down with D&D?
Yeah, you know me.
I'm down with D&D.
Yeah, you know me.
Who's down with D&D?
This whole party.
Are you ready to get down some D&D? I know I am, and I am joined, as I am always joined, on this new year by the misty, miraculous, and meticulous Mad Wizard Merwin. Happy New Year, Shawn.
Happy New Year to you, Chris, and Happy New Year to all our wonderful listeners.
They are wonderful, aren't they?
They are, and they are listeners if they are, in fact, listening.
Yes. I mean, that would be sort of the definition of that, right? Like,
Words mean things. That's where we are in this new year, Chris.
Is that what's going on? Words mean things? Is that what we decided?
Words have meanings, and we are going to make sure that we use most of them correctly.
All right. So today we're going to do some announcements, and we're going to get back into our discussion about Descent into Avernus. Mm-hmm. Start talking about the Path of Demons, I believe, right?
I hope so, because that's what I read.
God, I hope so, too, because that's what I read.
Mm-hmm.
First, let's do some announcements. 2 new members of the AL Adventures League team have been brought on. Who are they?
They are LaTia Bryant and Ma'at Crook. They are joining the AL admin team as community managers. They were introduced on the latest episode of Adventurers Wanted, which comes out monthly on the D&D Twitch channel. We have a link in the show notes, but you can just go to twitch.tv/D&D and it'll be right there. And so the current team talked to the new team, and you can follow LaTia and Ma'at on Twitter. LaTia is at the Lady Tiefling, and Ma'at is at MAATCROOK. And we are looking forward. I have not really spent much time with either of them, so hopefully in this new year I will get lots of opportunities to work with both.
Yeah, I hope so too for you.
And if you do look at that latest episode of Adventurers Wanted, you will also see an interview with Navigator Ashley Lawson, who talked about editing the Oracle of War content and talked about Eberron in general. So you can catch that great information as well.
So what does the title of Navigator mean in this context?
Just a nickname.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know. Neat. I like it. All right. So that's interesting. I'll be watching that later because I'm all about the Oracle of War. I'm in fact am running that campaign on Thursday evenings locally. So that's been fun. I got a nice little party of adventurers together.
You did the first one?
We're partially through the first one.
Cool.
Because it's only 2-hour time slots.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you're about halfway done, I hope.
Well, we had to make characters and stuff, so we're really about a third of the way done.
Nice.
Next thing is apparently there's no country for high-level characters. This is an article I found out there. It'll be a link in the show notes. And on D&D Beyond, there is a infographic about who is playing what level of character.
Mm-hmm.
And unsurprisingly to me, most of the gameplay is being played between 1 and 10.
Yes, I would say, between 1 and 10, 95% of the gameplay is between level 1 and 10?
I think it's 90.
90?
95 is between 1 and 13. Or maybe even more than that.
Okay. So 11 is 2%, 12 is 2%, 13 is 1, 14 is 1, 15 is 1, 16 through 19 is 0%. Not that no one has 19th, 18th, 17th, 16th level characters. They're just statistically insignificant in terms of percentages. And then 2% at 20.
Because why not, right?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 91% of gameplay, with at least people creating characters, is 10 or lower.
Uh-huh.
Yep. And so just talking to all the people out there who always scream about how come no one's putting any high-level content on the DM's Guild, say.
This is why.
Or how come the AL isn't producing tons and tons of Tier 4 adventures.
This is why.
This is why.
Although they should probably take a poll of AL players for that particular question.
True, yeah. But there is a lot more Tier 4 or Tier 3 even Adventures League content than there are players who want it, statistically speaking.
Also, running a tier 3 or 4 adventure for a 4-hour slot's really hard.
Yeah, especially in Adventures League when you have had no control over the progress of the characters as the DM. So yes, this is not surprising to me at all. It pretty much goes along with everything that has been speculated, and Wizards often says this, and people say no, that's not true. You're just saying that because you don't want to make high level content. Well, this pretty much, this goes right along, and it uses math to prove something to be true.
Yeah, it also shows why a lot of the campaign content. Well, here let's put it out there. How much content is actually out there for tier 3 and tier 4? I don't imagine there's that. I imagine there's a bunch of it, but not a ton of it. So, I mean, is it just to play devil's advocate? Because I agree with you, Shawn. But to play devil's advocate, is it chicken and the egg? Like, is it nobody playing it because there's no content for it?
No.
I didn't think so either, but I wanted to throw it out there.
For Adventurers League, you have people who have gone through and gotten their character to, say, level 17. And so they obviously want to play those characters, and that's completely natural. But in terms of just fostering resources, you want to provide content where it will be played the most. So those people should be supported, no doubt. Some people want more support than is warranted.
Yeah, I have a feeling those people that have the 2% of the 20th level characters are the people who are playing a lot of Adventurers League that got their characters through tier 3 and tier 4.
Or you just go, some random dude just goes and creates a 20th level character. I mean, it has nothing to do with AL, right? It's just let's see what a 20th level character looks like. Let's create it.
Because they're only tagging the levels of the characters that are on D&D Beyond, right? Like, so this is also that slice of it, but that is probably one of the better example slices that we have.
Right. And what's interesting though is that 3rd level is the highest, which shows that probably a lot of people are starting their campaigns at 3rd level.
Mm-hmm. It is very interesting.
So, yeah.
Also, where the game is being played the most is in that tier, that borderline tier 1, tier 2 space, which honestly has generally always been kind of the sweet spot of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep.
Like that's just D&D, right?
Like 3 through 8, that sort of range. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Next thing and last thing before we get into our topic is there are some illustrated D&D character sheets that are very exceptionally put together for people with dyslexia. Mm-hmm. And this isn't the only one that I've seen that I have a link to, but there's a bunch of them that have been popping up in my Twitter feed and in other places. So if you have dyslexia, there's a bunch of character sheets that people are making just for you, which is really neat.
Yeah, and I would love to hear on the boards. Go to our forums at forums.misdirectedmark.com. Go to the Down with D&D channel, and let us know if you have dyslexia or some other way that you have trouble with a regular character sheet. Let us know what works for you and what doesn't. That would be great information to have.
Well, let me tell you, my partner Jen is dyslexic, and I'm actually going to print out one of these sheets for her, and because I just recently found them, and see how she adapts to it, like how much she likes it. Because I've actually watched her take her character sheets and color code them because it's easier for her to understand it because they're color coded.
Yeah, when I looked at the sheet, I noticed that one of the big things was color coding. Color coding the different lines. So
shapes and colors are a lot easier for people, from what I have been told, with dyslexia to discern.
Right.
So there you go. That's interesting, right? Also, when we get to our sneak attack, I'll have some more commentary about the Ranger Beastmaster because we've been using it a bunch lately. The new one, it's really good, really good.
Cool.
All right, let's get into our main topic for the day, which is Descent into Avernus, Part 10.
So we are in the middle of Chapter 3. We've already covered some of that, and we are now to the Path of Demons. So let's do the quick recap, shall we, Chris?
Sure, let's do it up.
The characters spend time in Baldur's Gate. They learn that Elturel was dragged down into Avernus. They eventually meet Lulu the Hollyphant, who travels with them to Avernus. When they get to Avernus, they are in Elturel, which is hanging above the river Styx, being dragged down by chains. The companion has been turned into a horrible dark void, and the city has many survivors, and it's not completely overrun with demons and devils yet because the blood war is raging beneath them.
Lucky for them.
After rescuing Grand Duke Ravengard, they learn that the key to saving Elturel is in finding Zariel's sword. And Lulu thinks that she can probably regain her memories along the way and help them find it. So they go to Fort Knucklebones, get some more memories back for Lulu there, head to Harriman's Hill, where Lulu thinks the clues begin. And then finally, she dregs up enough memories to know that there are two places where they could start. And that's where we will begin here. One path will lead the characters on the path of demons. The other will lead them on the path of devils. So today, we're going to cover the path of demons.
So I haven't read ahead through the path of devils, because we're going to talk about the path of demons, but I have a feeling that some of these locations will cross over the different paths.
Okay.
Based on what I read.
All right.
So,
I have not read far enough to know that either, so we will find out.
Yeah, because we'll get to that. So let's start with the spawning trees. So this is where you get led to first. Or do you want to talk about this whole section first in general?
Yeah, let's talk about the section in general.
So this is a path, right? Like it is legitimately like you go from location to location to location dealing with stuff.
This is if we break it right down to its barest bones, this is a fetch quest, right?
Well,
In the old sort of Baldur's Gate video game way, where it's like person A says, "Go get me something," and start here. So you go to person B. Person B says, "Oh, I don't have that, but maybe go to person C." You go to person C, and person C says, "I don't have that, but if you do this other thing for me, I'll tell you where it is." So you do that other thing, and then you come back, and person C says, "Okay, go to person D, and she'll be able to help you." Then you go to person D, and person D says, "Well, I had that, but I don't have it anymore. I gave it to person E. And if you do this thing for me, I will tell you who person E is." And it's that sort of, it's a fetch quest path, right?
And normally I would be annoyed with something like this, but it's actually pretty themey because of the location.
What saves it, for the most part, is location and how distinct each of these things are. And with some parties, they are not going to be fond of this, even with all the themey stuff. So as we go through, I would like to talk about ways for a DM who has a party that will get bogged down in this, will not appreciate it, some things you might do.
Yeah, I'd also like to talk about how this is a structure for the adventure, but it's not. You don't have to just go from location to location with this, because remember, they're in Avernus. Like, there's the rules for traveling from place to place, right?
Right. And
also, there's the warlords that are running around.
Precisely, and that's what I was going to say is, if you have a party that is not heavy into role playing, who just wants to do the thing and get on to the next part, you might be able to run this whole path in 2 hours.
Probably, yeah. But
even with the Crypt of the Hellriders,
it's more that stuff's more role playing,
right? There's very little combat here. There's really even very little exploration here. It's more, if you just follow the path, it's go to the path, talk to somebody, they tell you something, move to the next step in the path, they tell you something, move to the next step. There may be, if you pass this skill check, this person will now help you. That sort of thing. So it can be very, very quick. What you want to do if you have a party that is not big on the way this is set up is intersperse, as Chris said, the travel, the warlords. Bring a second thread into it, so you're interweaving it rather than just following this one string.
Because honestly, if you're just following this one string, even I like it a lot, but I would get bored just doing the one thing.
Right.
The thing that excites me about it is because it's not the only thing going on.
Yep. What I would do, Chris, is if I was on this path, I would bring in Mahadi's Traveling Emporium.
Oh yeah, I forgot all about that. That's another thing that should show up now and again.
Right. So they get to the first place. They're told to go to the Tower of Erm. So off they head toward the tower. Mahadi's Wandering Emporium shows up. Mahadi says, hey, look at all the stuff I've got. You could buy this stuff. Bring in a subplot. Maybe that subplot is Mahadi says, I used to have this person that worked for me. She's a warlord now. If you run across her, deliver her a message for me.
Yeah, and
Right.
that could be
And
the golden hand one, right?
The necromancer warlord.
Yeah, I think she
Right.
drives the golden
Yep.
hand or something like that.
Exactly. So then they do the Tower of Erm and they head off toward the obelisk. As they're traveling to the obelisk, they come across this warlord. They deliver a message. Maybe she becomes infatuated with one of the PCs.
Mm-hmm.
Mahadi's not going to like that. Now, it could be
No.
infatuated in terms of romantically. It could be infatuated in terms of, I would love to animate that dead body.
Yeah,
It
exactly,
could-
right?
but-
Like I was
so-
saying the same thing.
So the characters encounter her. Then they go to the obelisk. As they go from the obelisk to the Mirror of Mephistar, they come across Mahadi again, who says, "Hey, did you deliver my message?" And then he can figure out, oh, why does she like this character? And then there could be some enmity there or some curiosity, and so now you're bringing a second story into just this one straight line. And even the people that they meet at the steps along this path can help them with that other story. Maybe one of the people, one of the demons or devils that they meet can help them deal with this whole Mahadi necromancer storyline. So don't be afraid to let the character's story overtake the story thread that's part of this path.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, that's what I wanted to get across, and it sounds like you're on the same page as I am with
Yeah,
that. Chris.
absolutely. 'Cause it's all about like these different moments that you can have that can enhance and then give you a different feel for what's going on. Realizing like the thing that you're doing isn't the only thing that's going on in the world,
Mhm. Yep.
which gives it a much fuller feel to it. Like it makes the story feel full
Mm-hmm.
or complete or bigger than just what is going on in your little spotlight of the world.
Yep.
All right, so with that all together, by the way, there's other cool things in the book that you can look at too. Like there's Smiler, the Defier, that you can utilize, another warlord that's wandering around. There's also story hooks in the Emporium that you can utilize. We should probably talk about them at some point.
Yeah, when we get to that part of the book.
Yeah, which is like the end, which is coming up actually. It's after the Path of Devils.
Yep.
All right, so the next, let's talk about this spawning tree.
Okay.
So this is the first place. You want to take this one?
Sure. So the characters are told by Lulu, there's two places you can go. One of the places is the spawning trees, which brings them on the path of demons. So when the characters get there, let me step back even one more time and talk about encounters themselves. When you go into encounter, there's lots of things that you can think of. You can think of what's the goal of the characters, what's the main hurdle for them to reach that goal, what are the consequences if they succeed or fail. All of those things, when you're creating an encounter or when you're DMing an encounter, those should be at top of mind. So with this, they're trying to find out where the Bleeding Citadel is. That's what's at top of mind for the characters when they go here.
Yep.
So they encounter 4 bearded devils who are picking on a fifth named Crickendolt, who was turned chaotic good by a brain injury.
Hey man, do devils have brains?
That's what I'm wondering. I guess they do.
I mean,
'Cause
according to this, they do.
if you have a brain injury, then you have to have a brain. Otherwise, there's no injury. Anyway, so Crickendolt and these 4 other bearded devils are tasked with destroying these trees that are creating abyssal chickens. It's an abyssal chicken hatchery. So abyssal chickens, of course, are these little tiny demons that look like chickens, and they run around and
They look like
destroy
something
things.
straight out of Silent Hill, honestly.
Yeah, they're pretty gruesome looking.
But they're adorable in a
They're-
devilish kind of way.
They're
or
they're
abyssal
adorable
kind of way.
in a horrible way. Yes.
Yeah.
So this would not be much of a combat encounter. So the characters should remember that what they're here to do is find the Bleeding Citadel. And so you can think through what happens if the characters just wipe out the devils. The devils are the ones that have the information on where the characters might find information about the Bleeding Citadel. So think about what happens if Crickendall joins the party, because he would be a great guide for the party since he's on his home turf here.
Mm-hmm.
You can also get a fiendish chicken as a familiar. Think all those things through with your particular group of players. Do you want it to happen? Do you not want it to happen? What are the ramifications if they do? What are the ramifications if they don't? All of those things.
There's also a very, very last-ditch thing that you can utilize. If, for some reason, all of your avenues for where the players can go next are eliminated,
Mm-hmm.
Remember, this is following Lulu's memories.
Mm-hmm.
So in the very, very end, if need be, you can have Lulu remember the next place to go.
Sure. And that's totally fine. That also gets to be a little Deus Ex Machina.
I'm with you.
If it happens all the time. So you
Yeah.
don't... If the characters are just totally destroying everything in their path when they should be getting information instead, have Lulu remind them. And if they continue that behavior, make consequences for that behavior.
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
The consequences don't have to mean total failure of the whole adventure, but it could mean some very difficult sledding ahead, including giving up all their souls, or worse, to get that information.
Yeah. Like I said, Lulu's your last resort.
Yep.
Having to make a deal for finding information is way more actually compelling
Right.
than that.
Yeah. So, if the characters deal with the bearded devils in a calm and rational manner, the devils demand a soul coin, and they will tell the characters that the wizard Mordenkainen has a base at the Tower of Erm, and he can probably help them since he's a powerful wizard,
Mm-hmm.
and would know such things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So from there, the characters have their next step in the quest, which is the Tower of Erm, and the bearded devils will mark a spot on the map where this tower is.
And the map will talk to them. And there's like little quotes in the book about what the map will say about each of these little places. It's kind of neat. I like it a lot.
It is.
Now another thing you can do is if the players just straight out attack the devils, you can have Crickendolt not attack the characters and seek to protect their satchel, which is where their demonic chicken earwax is.
Yes.
Because one, that's odd, right? Like, why is this bearded devil protecting the satchel? That's a
Right.
curiosity that'll raise a question. And then, of course, when they realize it's an abyssal chicken that he actually is fond of, or they're fond of, then they're like, what's up? Like, this is not normal.
Yep. That's why they're picking on Crickendolt, the other bearded devils, is because he feels bad about slaughtering these infernal chickens, and he's actually taken one called Earwax as a pet.
Yeah, that's actually supposed to be the thing that is like that's supposed to get the characters to like, what's going on here? Like
Yep.
that is the triggering incident. That's like, why are they picking on that poor bearded devil?
Yep, so make sure you present that emphatically before the characters make any decisions. And that's part A of any encounter is what information do the characters have going in, and what information do they learn immediately upon entering the encounter.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to make sure you give that information before they take their actions that will result in any consequences.
All right, let's talk about the Tower of Erm. Mm-hmm. So this is my first ever encounter in an adventure of any sort where Mordenkainen is present.
Yeah.
Mordenkainen's a
He
you have to
kind of
edit that
is.
out. I can't say that. Mordenkainen's a jerk.
He really is. You think of him, you hear about him in lore, from Greyhawk, and he just seems like another version of Elminster. He ain't. No, he travels here to Avernus frequently to do study of magic in the Hells. And he'll hire Mesoloths and Nikoloths to do work for him. So they're at these fiends are waiting at the bottom of his tower for him to come out and hire them to go do things, and he pays very, very well. So that's what the characters see as they approach. Now, 2 of the Nikoloths are loyal to Zariel and have been sent here by her to assassinate Mordenkainen. So they're just blending in with these other Mesoloths and Nikoloths. So if they hear what the characters have to say, that they're seeking this the Bleeding Citadel and the Sword of Zariel, they will take a great interest in them. They will try to then follow the characters as they go through this path, kidnap one at an opportune time, and take them to Zariel at her flying fortress.
Which then Zariel will use that character to try to get the other characters to come to the flying fortress as like a ransom.
Yep. So there's a potential diversion off this path. Now, getting to Mordenkainen has absolutely no interest in the characters or their plights. He could care less about El Torel being dragged into hell. He could care less about any of that.
But he is very interested in the fact that there's a wizard out there that feels like they might be a rival to Mordenkainen in Avernus, and he is not above sending the characters to deal with that rival for him.
Yep, so Mordenkainen lies to the characters, basically, and says, yeah, I don't know anything about that, but there's this other wizard. He hangs out by this obelisk, a little ways away. He probably knows something about it. So why don't you go talk to him? And he just does this to get rid of the characters, but also to hope that maybe they will deal with this potential rival if he's evil.
I also like that Mordenkainen uses a simulacrum to talk for him.
Yes.
And he's buried somewhere in his tower somewhere.
Right. He can't even be bothered to come out on his own. He sends his simulacrum out to deal with the characters.
Which, I'm sure some party or another will decide to want to throw down with Mordenkainen.
Oh, for sure.
And it'll be fun to watch Mordenkainen's simulacrum just blow them away.
Right.
Just, Archmage Mordenkainen.
Yeah, and if there's any sort of... And he could also just say to all these Nikoloths and Mesoloths, hey, guys, take care of this problem for me.
Uh-huh. And then it's on, right?
Then it's totally on at that point. And if there is any threat to Mordenkainen or the tower whatsoever, the tower just disappears. It just goes on to its next point of study.
I also like that the tower, it drops in and clicks into a base. He's got these bases probably all over the multiverse that this tower just goes to.
It's like a Lego.
Uh-huh.
It just kind of moves, it clicks in, and then moves on, and that clicks into the next one.
It's kind of funny.
Yep. So, again, mostly all role-playing here. Obviously a potential for a fight, just like there's a potential for a fight in the previous one.
I gotta say, though, any kind of fight that you have in any of these encounters is not the most efficient or beneficial way to go about things.
Yep. But, it could also, the whole encounter could be over in 2 minutes. You describe the scene, Mordenkainen comes out, his simulacrum comes out, and the information goes on, and off you go.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the obelisk.
Mm-hmm.
So what actually is here is there's a Bralgora demon that is pretending to be a human and pretending to be a human wizard, and they're trapped here because Bel, that pit fiend that has been rivaling with Zariel for control of Avernus and controlled Avernus for a while, had entrapped them here. And this demon is trying to trick the characters into freeing it. He's been trying to figure out this puzzle that Bel has presented to him for a long time. He's been trying to get out from these stones. So each of the stones is associated with the School of Magic, and the Balgura will attempt to trick them into helping with his most recent escape plan, which can harm them in some way, shape, or form,
or help them.
That too.
There are some of the things are helpful.
Well, there's damage regardless, right?
Yeah, there's damage, and then there's a secondary effect,
mm-hmm.
which could be harmful or helpful.
I like the Modron one, right? A Modron pops up and starts following you around for a while.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything but follow you around. It's like, why is this Modron following me? Then it could just say weird stuff, because, Modrons do that.
Yep.
If you want to be really funny, you could just have a Modron get summoned that's the one from the adventure that you wrote a long time ago, Shawn. The one that's kind of a broken Modron.
Yeah, yeah.
What was that one's name?
Oh, what was it? It was something not spicy. It was like, oh boy.
I put you on the spot, and I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I tried.
That was one edition and many brain cells ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, after that, the wizard, if they figure it out, even if they don't figure it out, we'll send them towards the mirror of Mephistar because it's like, get Mephistopheles. That's how you talk to Mephistopheles in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
To help me break out of here, and I will help you find the Bleeding Citadel, or at least help you find someone who can help you find the Bleeding Citadel.
Yep. And at this point, my only concern is there aren't really any consequences for success or failure. At this point, I love role-playing encounters, and I'm fine with role-playing encounters that don't necessarily have consequences. You can just have fun with them. They can just be part of a story. But at some point, if you have too many of those in a row, it's almost taking agency away from the characters. There's no... At the obelisk, this Barlgura demon tries to do this thing. The characters are just there. They're just standing there watching. And they just take damage. And the damage is pretty much meaningless because they're just going to... They're high enough level, the damage is just going to go away as soon as they move on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted there to be a little bit more development in terms of consequences... Not even necessarily choices, but just consequences for failure or success, and something more for the DM to use, if you will.
So, let
Does
me
that make
ask.
sense?
Yeah, it does. Let me ask you a question about this then.
Right.
Can this encounter be eliminated, and can you roll some of the information that is given into the Mirror of Mephistar encounter?
Most likely.
So I feel like if you can do that, you can just get rid of this one because the one before at the Tower of Erm has the potential to have somebody get kidnapped. There's like a thing that can happen there, which is rather interesting.
Right.
And the spawning trees encounter, if they just kill everybody and you want to be that game master that's going to be like, well, you killed everybody and you get the information. What are you going to do now? You better go make a deal with the devil. Like, that's a consequence too.
Right.
But here it's a lot trickier, right?
Right. So you as the DM could add consequences, but they aren't.
They're not there. Yeah.
They're not offered up as part of the main story.
Which is why we're here talking about it, right?
Right. Which is why we're either giving you ideas or we're just telling you, think about this, come up with your own idea based on the players that you have at the table and what you know that they might enjoy.
The obelisk area is also, in my opinion, a very good spot to drop in a warlord encounter right around it, because these stones are sort of a magic circle of some sort. So that is a neat little place to have that kind of encounter.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you could do a great set piece battle here, especially if it happens right after the characters get zapped. Some of them get. Everyone takes some damage, lightning damage, and then suffers an additional effect, which could actually be positive or negative. But to have that sort of chaotic thing happen, and then have devils swoop in right at that point to attack, would be cool.
Mm-hmm. So that you can utilize that too. Also, my thing about if you kill this demon, then you don't have information. Also, you'll have to make a deal then with somebody to move on.
Yep.
Which is probably a better fallback than having just Lulu tell you. Like, maybe you have you can play the Lulu card once, but then you're like, Lulu's like, I don't know, go make a deal with the devil, I guess.
Yeah.
They're not all bad, sort of.
Yep.
I mean, they're all bad, but they're not all bad.
Yes.
Because you're a bad devil doesn't mean you're a bad devil.
Exactly. Words mean things. Yeah. Part 2. So if the characters follow the path, this demon, this Barlgura demon, asks them to go speak to Mephistopheles on its behalf. Oh, okay. Sure, let's go. The characters then go to the Mirror of Mephistar. This is sort of a portal that leads to the layer of hell that Mephistopheles oversees.
The correct statement there, the most important word there is sort of.
Yeah. So they look into this sheet of ice, and the characters see a Cambion who appears on the other side of the sheet of ice to bargain on behalf of Mephistopheles. And of course, he says, well, yes, I will help you. What the Barlgura demon wants is to be forgiven. And so that's what the characters are going to try to get the demon released. and then the demon will tell them what they want to know.
Yeah.
So they go here, and they can say, "Hey, we're here to speak for this demon. Can Mephistopheles let him off the hook?" And the Cambion, in true Fetch Quest fashion, says, "Well, maybe if you do this thing for us."
Well, actually, the Cambion's cool because its face is frozen in agony, and it's got a steaming pot of water that it pours on its face to melt it. Like, that's cool. Like, that's straight up cool. Like, I'm like, oh, this is so neat.
We are skipping. I should say, skipping over a lot of cool flavor stuff.
Yeah.
There is a lot of great flavor in this that can be totally played up and should be totally played up to get this sense of hellishness across.
Also, they sweeten the deal because they're going to give a secret plus an intelligence or wisdom boost.
Yep.
Those are not always easy to come by in D&D. So.
No, and so he says, I'll throw in all of this other stuff if you can do this one thing for us, which is dam up part of the river Styx. And not only will we give you all everything that you want and an increase to your intelligence and wisdom, here's an imp that will actually do most of the work. And so an imp appears, a cold imp, being from one of the frigid layers of hell.
Made out of snow, in fact.
Yep. And so the imp has shatter sticks, a.k.a. dynamite, to dam the river.
Also, this is a binding deal, and the way that the deal is bound is that the Cambion scritches the deal in words on one side of the mirror, which appears on the other side of the mirror, then melts, and the Cambion's like, drink it, and that'll lock the deal up. I'm like, wow, okay, now we're doing some demonic deals. I'm into it.
Yep. So after the characters drink the deal,
devilish deals. Sorry,
yeah,
devils and demons are different things in this game.
It's true. Words again mean
words
things.
matter.
And so yes, the devil says, "Drink these words, and our deal will be bound." And sure enough, it is. So then the characters then head off. But first, Chris,
there's one more really
important
thing. As soon as you stare into this mirror, like, you will see a reflection of yourself that is like gaunt and awful looking and rind in ice. You have to make a saving throw. If you fail that saving throw, you were stunned for a minute, but you're also staring into the mirror. And when you do that, Mephistopheles knows everything that you know. And if Mephistopheles knows what you know, Mephistopheles knows that you're going after the sword of Zariel. And if Mephistopheles is armed with that knowledge, he's like, oh, I'm later going to send an ice devil to murder these people and take that sword so I can use it as leverage over Zariel later.
Yep.
So good. That's so devil.
That's perfect. And what that is a consequence that adds to the story, is mechanically based, and is cool. So
same thing as the thing at the tower, because there's a thing that can happen. Like, if you talk out loud too much about what you're doing, these Yugolovs will start following you around, and they could snatch somebody.
Yeah, for sure. So, if the characters agree, they are then led to the pit of Shumrath by this ice imp.
Ooh, can I talk about this one?
Do it.
All right. So the slime, it's a big giant pit of slime, like a huge pit of slime, and there's a bit of the river Styx that's flowing into it, and you can find out that the slime is a degenerated pit fiend. Maybe you'd never find that out, but the DM knows it's a degenerated pit fiend that is under the influence of the river Styx. Like, it's just this, and it's only got one thought, so you can commune with it, and all it wants is revenge on Bel. And it feels bad about itself, and it wants revenge on Bel. Also, on top of that, there's an Ultraloth that's being repeatedly dunked into the slime. His name is Bazet, and he's like, let me out of here. It's very much like that scene with Mad Mardigan in Willow, if anybody remembers that movie. If you don't, you should go watch it. It's pretty good. It's like a geek fantasy staple. So it's this poor Bazet is being dunked repeatedly into the slime for like a minute or two, and then being pulled out. It's total waterboarding, right, or something like that. It feels like that, and it's awful. But he will teach you how to make a homunculus out of the slime. Like, everybody can then make a homunculus out of the slime. You can have little pets, little Avernus demon pets. It's great. Demon pets, or devil pets, I should say. Sorry. So that's pretty fun. if you don't want to deal with them, you don't have to. That's fine. But the snow imp will then dam up the river Styx by sticking those shatter sticks into the ground. They'll do all the work. But while that's going on, the imp gets attacked because Belle doesn't want that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. That's what's going on. And you're going to fight off the demons that attack, or the devils that attack, while the imp is doing what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do it, then the river Styx gets dammed up. You can go back and tell the mirror that you did it, and can go back to the obelisk, and then by just telling the Balagura that if you just pledge your loyalty to Mephistopheles, he'll let you out, and that happens, and the pillars, those obelisk pillars, all like ice over and break, and then he tells you that the Crypt of the Hellriders is where you're going to go next.
Yep. And
did I catch it all?
I think you got it all there.
Oh my lord, that's a big mouthful.
It is.
When I read it, I was like, man, that's a lot of stuff in a really short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, some of these are very short in the book, like some are less than a column, on a page.
Mm-hmm.
But they are thick with cool. I mean, that's so evocative of hell, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That whole situation.
So yeah, now, fairly importantly, I don't know if this could actually play into things later, possibly, depending on where you go. That pit fiend will reconstitute itself in about 48 hours, and when it does, it'll go after Belle's Forge. And that's a location in the game that you might show up at. So when you show up there, this pit fiend might be attacking it.
Yep. And again, now there's a great consequence. Because it could help the characters when they get to Belle's Forge. Also,
if I was the game master running this and you let Bazet out, I would then stick Bazet at the Wandering Emporium so that he can be a recurring NPC.
Right. And you're going to know that he is a servant of Mephistopheles, and you can use that knowledge to give them choices or to give them leverage.
Mm-hmm.
Or they could work against them, because if Mephistopheles knows that they're after the sword, and he goes after the sword, this demon, Bargura demon.
Well, I was talking about Bazet the Ultraloth, but you could do the exact same thing with the Balagura demon too.
Right, exactly. Sorry, I was on the wrong.
No, that's okay. I'm with you.
On the wrong fiend, but yeah, you could use all of those, have them reoccur, right? In some way based on how they interacted with the characters.
Mm-hmm. And I have to say, like, we talked about this, I think, and then we'll have to end because we're getting tight on time.
Yep.
But we talked about this before. Like, as this adventure progresses through the book, like, it goes from being much tighter to being much more fluid and letting the game master or dungeon master make a lot more choices about what's going to happen next.
Mm-hmm. And
we're getting to the point where it's still got some constraints on it. Like, there's a path to follow, but you can add a whole lot of stuff in and around it if you want to.
Right.
And more factions are getting into play now.
Yep. You get Mephistopheles in this now. You get Mordenkainen in this now. I mean, even though Mordenkainen isn't going to do much, there's a lot of different factors, a lot of different possibilities for interplay, and unique stories for your table, as opposed to just following the one story in the book.
Heck, if you want Mordenkainen to play a bigger part, if Mordenkainen finds out about the Sword of Zariel, like, that might be a very interesting thing for Mordenkainen to want to deal with or find and study. So, that could be another thing that you drop in. It's not like in the book, but that's a thing that you can totally do.
Absolutely. And, he could come down as an ally, he could come down as an adversary, or somewhere in between.
Because everything is kind of gray in this world, because everybody's kind of looking out for themselves.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's our episode for this week. Next week we'll get into the rest of this path and maybe a little bit of the next path. But I wanted to say, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Let's do a few Patreon shout-outs. Brandon Barnes, the old school DM Randy Farmer, the Mad Wizard Merwin, who patrons the show, even though, he's on the show. It's mad, right? It's madness.
Madness.
Troy Sandlin, Will Doyle, Zach Goins, Chris Constantine, Cindy Moore, Eric Mengi, Eric Simon, Miko Froelich, Andrew Demps, Avi Waxberg, Brett, Chris Steele, The Chromatic Chameleon, Curtis Y. Takahashi, Daniel Thomas, Evil Rich, J. David Chrisman, and J.T. Evans. Thank you so much for being our patrons. And speaking of patrons, if you'd like to be a patron of Down with D&D, you can click on the link to our Patreon page on the website. And for a paltry $2 a month, you can get yourself a shout-out.
Or for $4 a month, you get a shout-out like you just heard, but you also get to see our pre-production show notes and access to our Slack room, where you can chat with us whenever and however you so choose. Or for just $1 single, you can get access to our Sneak Attack segment. And this week's Sneak Attack segment is going to be awesome. That's all I'm saying. Mm-hmm. I got some things to say, and I know Chris does too.
I always do. Any of those other levels will give you the Sneak Attack show also. So, you know. But if you can't help us monetarily, but you want to give us a boost, just talk about us on social media. Tell a friend that listens to podcasts, that likes gaming podcasts, to listen to Down with D&D. Please, thank you.
Yep. Reviews also are useful. You can do it via Apple Podcast if you so choose, because other podcatchers use that. But anything will help spread the word of Down with D&D. We appreciate.
Mm-hmm. Shawn, where can we find you on the interwebs?
The best place to find me is on Twitter at Shawn Merwin, or you can talk with us on the forums at forums.misdirectedmark.com. How about you, Chris?
You can hit me up at The Light 101 or at Misdirected Mark on Twitter. That is another great place to find us. Now, if you want more content like Down with D&D, aside from the website, which you can go to, you can hit us up on our new Twitch channel. We play a lot of games and talk about stuff on that channel. You can go to our YouTube page where this show is and a bunch of other shows, such as Jang Yu Hustle, where you can train along fellow students Eric Farmer and Eli Kurtz in Jang Yu Hustle. Eric and Eli, they make their kung fu stronger watching wuxia films and then discussing how to apply their observations to game design, because they are designing a wuxia game.
Down with D&D is a Misdirected Mark production, the media arm of Encoded Designs.
So, Mr. Mad Wizard Merlin, what are we going to do now?
We're going to go kill some abyssal chickens.
But if we do that, then we'll probably have terrible consequences.
You know what abyssal chickens taste like?
Chicken?
Yeah.
That's fatty?
Mm-hmm.
It says so right in the book.
It does.
Get down with D&D.
Yeah, you know me.
Get down with D&D.
Yeah, you know me.
Get down with D&D.
Yeah, you know me.
Who's down with D&D?
This whole party.
Down with D&D.
Yeah, you know me.
You down with D&D?
Yeah, you know me.
I'm down with D&D.
Yeah, you know me.
Who's down with D&D?